The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Insights. I'm Bethany Ricciardi, and today we're here to talk about the consequences and the dangers of texting and driving. I'm joined with Miss Sunrise Side 2015, Kathleen Kramer. Kathleen, thank you so much for being here.
Hi Bethany, thank you for having me.
So let's just start from square one. With your title, Miss Sunrise Side, what are some of the responsibilities that come along with that?
After you win, you have a lot of responsibilities. You go on interviews, you go through the community doing different types of service events, and you also have a platform that you had to start in order to compete. I've chosen to title my platform, Is It Worth It? The Dangers of Texting and Driving, and my hopes is to get people to think twice. Not necessarily to stop them, but to at least get them to think twice.
So why this platform? I mean, I've heard multiple different platforms, over the years that different women have chosen. Why the dangers of texting and driving?
I have a close tie with this subject. My dad was actually involved in a car accident that possibly involved texting and driving, and I wanted to raise awareness because losing what could have been my father, I was lucky enough that he was okay, but I wanted to save someone else from feeling what we felt when I got that phone call. It was very heart-wrenching, and you don't really know how to react in that situation. So if I could save someone else and someone else's family from feeling that way, or save a life, then I've done my job. So I'm hoping just to get people to think twice, that it isn't worth it. It's not worth your life, and it's not worth someone else's life.
So how do you go about raising awareness and being active on this topic? How do you try and generate the conversation about your platform?
I've been working in a lot of classrooms. I go into Alcona Schools, which is where I graduated from, and I've been lucky enough that a lot of the teachers let me go in during their school days, and I present a PowerPoint that has a bunch of statistics and a video that's very powerful. And looking around the room when I'm doing this, a lot of the students are very, very engaged. And it's funny because a lot of their reactions afterwards aren't what I would have expected going in. It's kind of, you think that they're all about, it's not going to happen to me, I'm Superwoman or Superman. And I notice that when I'm done giving the presentations, I have a lot of kids come up to me and they say, wow, this is reality. I am going to think twice about this because that could be me. And, I do text and drive, and I've never thought of it in this way. So ultimately, my goal is reached because I've gotten them to think twice, and I've gotten them to really take a step back and look at reality that this will happen to them if they don't stop.
So are you targeting, I'm assuming, kids that are 16 and older for the most part, ones that can drive?
That is correct. I have also been in a couple driver's training classes, so they're a little bit younger, just now coming into driving. In a few of my classes, I've had, some middle schoolers and whatnot, but my main focus is really teens that are new to driving. It's the millennial generation I'm trying to get a hold of. The technology crazy, addicted to the cell phones. I really want them to know that, their best friend isn't going to be mad at them if they don't text them back in 2 seconds, that it's worth it to wait. It's worth it to pull the car over. I really think it's something to be said for just waiting. Just put the phone in the back seat and you're not tempted. Put it in your console. You're not tempted if you don't hear your phone going off. Or, there's a lot of technology out on phones now that you can turn off your notifications, which is great because then you never even hear your phone go off and you're not tempted to look at it.
So being someone who goes into schools and is trying to lead by example, being a young woman, how do you avoid temptation in the car?
That's a great question. I usually will take my phone and I will put it in my purse, and my purse goes right in the back seat on the opposite side of the car, so it would be on the passenger side. And I find that when I do this, first of all, my arms are so short, I wouldn't be able to reach it anyways. Second of all, I'm not tempted. I can't reach it. I'm not going to look backwards for it. I can't hear it in the back seat. And it can wait. It's not worth it to me to hurt somebody else or myself, no matter what.
So this is kind of a broad question, but do you think this is a problem in the state of Michigan and maybe even nationwide?
I absolutely do. 11 teens die every single day just from texting and driving alone. That's pretty scary when we think about that. I mean, that's everywhere, 11 teens. So I think it's an issue not only in Michigan, but nationwide as well. And that's why I'm out on a mission to raise awareness, because even if I can make a difference in my small community, maybe one person hears me and then they make a difference, and it just becomes a chain reaction.
Now, I know you briefly touched on there's, different technologies that you can kind of avoid the temptation. What do you think about Bluetooth? I know that's kind of like a big thing now.
Yeah, I actually have Bluetooth in my car, and it's great because my phone is automatically hooked up through Bluetooth. So if my parents give me a phone call, if my friends or my sister, it goes right through my car. I never have to take my hands off the wheel. I just click the little button on my steering wheel that says answer, and I'm able to talk to basically the road. And I've never taken my hands off the wheel. I've never taken my eyes off the road, which is the ultimate goal. Hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. And I also know that there's more technology in cars, such as Apple CarPlay or Android also has one in the cars, and you can plug your phone into the car itself, and then everything goes into the car, and you never have to take your hands off the wheel. You can text through your car, you can call through your car. I don't suggest texting, but if a text message does come through, your car will read it to you. Therefore, you don't ever have to take your eyes off the road.
Right.
I still think the safest way is to always pull over or just wait till you get to your destination, but there are ways that it's becoming safer,
right,
which is great.
Absolutely. So after these presentations, I know you mentioned a little bit about the reactions that you get, but are there any questions or concerns that students come to you with that you help them through?
Yes. One of the main ones that I get is students are afraid to say something to their parents. Respecting their elders or respecting people that are older than them, or if they're in the car with their friends. They're afraid to say something because they think that maybe it's disrespectful. But what I would say to anybody who has that question, and even if you're listening now and you're wondering what you would do if your parent or somebody of an older age is with you in the car and they start texting, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, I can text that for you if you'd like, or could you please put your phone down? It's safer for both of us. It's not really about what you're saying, it's how you say it. And if you just say it respectfully and calmly, then I find you have a great outcome too. It's not necessarily that you're being disrespectful, but your life matters too.
Absolutely, and there's a lot more that we're going to go into, and we're actually going to bring your father on to talk a little bit more about the topic in general, so be sure to stay tuned, and you be sure to stay tuned as well, because we'll be right back with more. Welcome back, everyone. So we're still here talking about the dangers and consequences of texting and driving. I'm here with Miss Sunrise Side 2015, Kathleen Kramer, and we are now joined with her father, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So can we talk a little bit about this accident? Anything that you really want to share? Maybe your thoughts about texting and driving before and after the incident?
Sure. Well, first of all, the accident, it's kind of hard to believe that we're up on 3 years now. It was actually 3 years ago this month. And still to this day, I do not remember the accident at all. I remember a little bit before where I was going, what we were going to do, and my brother was in the car with me. The actual accident itself, and about the first thing that I do remember, kind of a small community that we live in down in Lincoln there. I'm a member of the fire department, and all of my friends were on scene, and it happens to be one of my best friends is a paramedic down in Alcona County, and he happened to be the guy that was on duty, and naturally that's the way it works. We were halfway to the ambulance, or halfway to the hospital, and I was in the back of the ambulance, he still said I was out of it. And one of the things that I first picked up on, because I'm an EMT with the fire department myself, we never run lights and sirens unless it's a bad call. And I'm laying there on the cot myself, and I'm hearing the sirens going off, and all of a sudden I'm going, wait a second, that's for me. So I sat up right away, and I'm like, what's going on? And he goes, relax, everything's okay. And so that was really about the first time that it started to come to of actually what happened. It was a long road to recovery, but I was blessed very well that I have 100% recovery. I actually think I'm a little bit better off today than what I was before the accident. So.
Certainly a better runner than I am.
There you go. Now I have to quickly ask, was your brother okay?
Yes, he actually walked away from the accident, had a couple of minor scratches on it. I don't know how I ended up with all the damage, but nevertheless, I did. It was a pretty high-speed impact. Both of the vehicles were traveling at a high rate of speed, 55 miles an hour, so the car was destroyed. I was destroyed, but I was built back better.
There was 48 stitches along his head up there, and then nose surgery. He had to have reconstructive nose surgery, so I mean, it was kind of funny seeing little, napkins in his nose, but, glad he's here.
Absolutely. And I guess I just want to clarify that you were the driver, but you weren't on your phone.
Actually, no, I was the passenger in the vehicle, but neither one of us were on a phone at that point in time. No texting, no driving. I'm a firm believer. I love the platform that she has chosen, to bring this message out to people in the state, in our smaller communities, and even across the country. It's such an important message because people today, I travel for my job, and I see it all the time. I'm at a red light, I'm driving down the highway, and people are staring with their phones in their face. It is definitely a big problem. You realize that these vehicles out there, they're 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pound machines that can just change somebody's or some family's life in a matter of seconds, and it's not worth it. I was blessed that we came through with it, recovering really well, but there's people out there that doesn't happen on a regular basis. They actually suffer way more than we do, and God forbid they lose a life or a loved one because of that. It doesn't need to happen.
I want to add, he just said that it takes seconds to change a family's life, and that's so true. What people don't realize is it takes 5 seconds going 55 miles an hour to go the length of a football field.
Wow.
That is incredible, and especially in our area, there's deer, there's children that run out from cars. If somebody stops, you don't see them, and you rear end them. It only takes 5 seconds, and that goes by like that.
So do you find yourself kind of being an activist now along with your daughter for this platform?
Absolutely, I definitely do. Again, utilizing the technology. I have a little bit rare situation that I travel for my job, so I'm in the car several hours a day. And as Kathleen was mentioning, some of this new technology, I do take advantage of it, but yet I'm still very, very cautious. Anytime I'm a passenger in a vehicle, I don't trust you, no matter what. I want to be the driver all the time. But yes, I do. I do promote it myself. I live and breathe what she's preaching every single day, and I hope everybody else out there does as well too.
Now, I know there's always been distractions when driving, the radio, the GPS. Why do you think texting and driving has just become this epidemic across the nation?
I think that a lot of people are so worried about what other people are going to think, and I think they're worried about, oh my gosh, are they going to be friends with me after, or what's going on in my phone, or what's the plans tonight, that they can't wait. It's almost like an addiction.
Right.
I've noticed, like, even myself, sometimes I find myself scrolling through Facebook looking at the same things over and over, and I'm like, what am I doing? I could be doing other things that are more productive. And I think it's the same way. It's almost an addiction. I've got to know what's going on. I've got to know who's talking to me. And people aren't realizing how dangerous it is to be operating a vehicle and then having your face in a phone.
Now, I've done a little bit of research. It seems like in Michigan, the fine if you're caught texting and driving is $100. Do you think that's enough? Do you think there has to be more?
I absolutely think there needs to be stronger regulations. I would like to see, suspended licenses, especially, it sounds harsh, but it's your life. So I'm going to get a little harsh here. What I would like to see, especially with 16, 17-year-old drivers and level 1 license, suspended. If you're caught texting and driving, I would like to see the license pulled, because that hurts more than a $100 fine. And I think we need stronger regulations. I really, really do. We need people to think twice. Is the consequences really worth it? No. And a $100 fine, I don't think really gets them thinking that way.
Would you agree, Paul?
I definitely agree. So many people today just sit there and they'll drive in their vehicle and say, well, it'll never happen to me.
Right.
It'll never happen to me. But yet, thousands of people every day, every week, every month, every year, it does happen to them. So if they could just make that difference and put that thing down, the whole world will be a better place.
Now, how about law enforcement? Obviously, they try to look out for things like that. It might be hard to detect, but how do you think law enforcement, specifically in Michigan, does handling these?
I don't work in law enforcement specifically, but I also am an EMT and I work in EMS, And I see on a lot of our car accidents we have officers, and I think they do a great job of really investigating it, really looking at, okay, what were the times this person was texting, what were the times of the accident. So I think they're doing a great job from what I can see, and I can only hope that when I don't see, they're also trying to spot it out and really, really looking for it, because it's everywhere. As my dad said before, it's everywhere. You just have to open your eyes to it. You can look right next to you and the person will probably be texting.
What about you? Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Again, I think it's a little bit where the society has to put a little bit of responsibility on themselves. There's only so many police officers that can go around and do their jobs.
Right.
A police officer can't be everywhere all the time. So again, it boils right back down into promoting text-free driving in your driver's training classes, whether it's at the dinner table with mom and dad or whoever the parents are or the parenting figure are. We need to just keep hitting it home, and eventually someday it will make a difference.
All right, well, thank you. There's plenty more that we're going to talk about. We're just going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, so be sure to tune right back in.
Clear.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So continuing the conversation on the dangers of texting and driving, this has been your platform for about a year now, right?
Yes.
So all this research, what have you really discovered?
You know, I've learned that texting and driving makes a crash 23 times more likely to happen, which doesn't sound like a lot, but then when you're also continuing to do research and you're looking into the accidents, 23% of accidents are caused by a cell phone and texting and driving, and now that doesn't sound like a lot when you just say 23%, but when you actually do the math, that's 1.3 million crashes in the United States caused from texting and driving alone. And you know, as I said before, 11 teens die every day over a cell phone. And that could be your best friend or your child. It's scary to think about. You know, you go through these statistics and it kind of hits home to you like, wow, this is becoming an epidemic and it needs to stop.
Now, I know you go into classrooms and you focus mainly on the students and people who are maybe just starting to drive, and you've mentioned that you see it on the road all the time. Do you think it's adults too?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter of the age, whether it's a presentation due for a guy or a gal at work and they're checking their email, whether it's texting and driving for a golf outing that they have this afternoon or whatever it may be. I see it across the board with everyone.
And I guess that's true too. It might not actually just be texting a friend. It might be checking Facebook, posting an Instagram, something like that.
Snapchats, I notice, are very popular. You know, people, because you can see the speed in your Snapchat, and it's like, you know, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. And, you know, one thing I wanted to mention with it also being parents and, you know, not only teenagers, growing up, my sister and I all had certain expectations from my parents. We were always expected to put our cell phones away because there were serious consequences at home. And I really encourage parents to become stricter on your children, because it's worth it. They might be mad at you for a day or a month or whatever it is for being strict, but I can promise you when they come home at night, you'll thank yourself.
Absolutely. So going more into this state, specifically in Michigan, do you think the law is clear? I know there's maybe some words that could be more emphasized, like, is it only when the car is moving that you can't be texting? If I'm at a red light, is it okay? Do you think it is really black and white? Or?
Well, I think that's the point where education needs to be the key here. It's going to start with your parents at home, and then when you get into driver's training, those laws have to be spelled out for those kids that are in there. And then as they grow through their adult life, they're going to know what the laws are. Everybody knows right now that if the light's green, you go. If the light's yellow, you stop. Red, you're sitting there waiting. So if we had an education system in our driver's training class that spelled out those laws to the T, and they knew what the consequences were, it might make a difference and we'd have less of it.
Do you think you agree?
What I want to add on that is I think that it should be across the board, and as I said before, stricter regulations. A $100 fine is just not enough to get people to think twice. I think we need to be suspending licenses, and we need to really look at what is going to make these people put the phone down. What can we do to get them to think twice? And as my dad said, education is key. It truly is, you know, really raising awareness to these kids, because most people don't realize the statistics, and they don't realize, oh, it's not going to happen to me. That's what they think, and it will.
I think I've read that it's one of the #1 killers of teens is texting and driving, and it's a completely avoidable thing, it seems.
Absolutely. It's 100% preventable. Throw your phone in the back seat. You know, put your phone in the trunk if you have to.
So I'm from New Hampshire. We actually recently got a hands-free law. So, you know, whether it's, you know, you have to have Bluetooth. If someone sees you even near your phone, it's over. So do you think nationwide that all states should prohibit texting and driving?
I absolutely do. I think that everyone in the nation's life is worth a regulation like that and a law like that.
Absolutely. So I know we talked a little bit about how you go into classrooms and things like that. Tell me more about how you get these kids to actually make that pledge and hopefully move forward in a positive way.
Yeah, so when I go into classrooms, I show a video towards the end of my presentation that's very, very powerful. You actually can find it on YouTube if you just look up texting and driving videos, and it shows teens in this very dramatic crash. And while the video is a little bit, you know, dramatized and whatnot, I also end up showing the pictures of my dad's accident, which is not dramatized, and it's just about as gruesome. So after I've really shown them this is reality and this is what can happen, I pull out this big poster board, and written on it is, I pledge not to text and drive. And I require the students that will take the pledge, not that are just signing it to be cool or signing it because everybody else does. I really encourage them to sign it because they are going to put their phones away, because they are going to really make a conscious effort to not text and drive. And, you know, there has been people that won't sign the board for me, and that's okay. Would I like them to, ultimately? Yes, but I don't want them to falsely do it. I want people to take the pledge because they're taking the pledge for real.
So how can we learn more? I mean, obviously there's a ton of stuff online. What should people really be looking for and researching?
There's a lot of websites, especially with phone companies. AT&T is a great one. They have a scholarship now for teens, and I believe it's seniors in high school. And you take a pledge, and you go through and you fill out the scholarship. And I think there's different incentives for that. So to get people to do more research, really it's common sense education. You know, it's common sense that when you're going 55 miles down the road and you have hit the rumble strips, you probably should put your phone down. Or when people are dying, you should put your phone down. It's not worth your life or anybody else's.
So moving forward as a family, how are you guys looking towards the future to continue the conversation and really impact? And like you said, if you save one life, you did your job. How are you going to keep trying to do that?
I think the ultimate message is just to continue to let people know putting the phone down. My mission does not end when my title is over. I will forever hold this as a mission because I am forever grateful that my dad is sitting next to me right now, and people aren't that lucky. So if I can save someone or get them to think twice, I will do that for the rest of my life if I have to. And I think that's, you know, to be said for him too. We'll just continue as long as we see it, and as long as people are interested in listening to us, we're going to keep speaking.
And the title was, Is It Worth It?
Is it worth it? The dangers of texting and driving.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the both of you to be here today, and we are especially grateful that you are here with us. Thanks again. And thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week for another edition of Insights.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.
The furniture and set design for this episode of Insights is provided by Young Appliance Art Van Furniture on US 23 South, Alpena.